Hi, everybody. How are you doing? So, listen, I'm Tamika Hall, and I'm really excited that you are joining me today, or whether it's going to be evening time, nighttime. You're listening to Princess Lee. She's an indie artist. Let me turn it down. I'm listening to I Worship 96 FM radio. Really excited. That's my radio station. We got some really great DJs that are on there and what have you. Listen, I wanted to come to you today because I'm really going to start trying to talk to authors more from this page, okay? And so first of all, what I do want to give a very special shout out to Elder Tanya Pierce. Yes, her book Elevate Your Faith is going to be like going live and berserk, and it's going to launch this Saturday. So that's from 4 to 7 o'clock at the Best Western in Smyrna, Delaware. I also got to give a special shout out to Tasha W. Tasha just released her book, Who Am I When I'm in the Limelight? She just released that a couple of weeks ago. And she had her book signing. And finally, I do want to give a special shout out at this moment to author Samantha Singletary. Samantha is the author of Seasons of Change. And so these are authors that I've had the opportunity to just work with, and they're amazing. Also, Samantha is the I don't even know what you call folks who design their own tea, but she is the owner of Royal 8 International Tea. The tea is like the bomb. It's really, really good. So if you go to her website, which is Royal 8 Tea, so Royal, the number 8, and then the word tea, then you'll be able to connect with her. So let's get started. So listen, we're talking about how to effectively work with a designer. Let me turn off my music. Let's get down to business. This is going to be a short Facebook Live. I was about to say Scope because I'm so used to being on Periscope, but it's going to be rather short, but I think it's going to be very helpful for those of you that are out there. The information that I'm about to give to you, they are going to be good for anyone. So whether you're looking at rocking a book or what have you, this information is going to be really good for you. Okay, so let's talk about that. If you are an author, if you finish writing a book, you're getting ready to get it published, I'm going to talk to you about how you can effectively work with the person that's going to design your book. Okay, now I'm the CEO and the chief designer of Tamika Ink. So you can find me by going to Tamika Ink, Tamika like ink pen, and you'll be able to connect with me there. Okay. I don't know who is trying to connect with me right now, but anyway, let's go ahead and get started right here. Okay. Let me make sure I got my stuff on mute. Boom. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let's talk about it. Number one, when you're working with a designer, it's important to understand that number one, you are the boss. Okay, so what that means is, number one, it means that you're in charge, right? So that means that whoever it is that you hire, we work for you. So if somebody brings me on to design their book or their flyer, I got flyaway locks here, then you just got to understand that you are the person that's in charge. Now, what that means is twofold. Again, it means that the designer works for you, but two, that also means that it's on you to communicate what it is that you want. It's important to understand that the designer that you're bringing in, they don't know what's inside of your brain. So we don't know what it is that you're thinking. You see, I got my pencil here. It just makes me feel smarter. I'm always with a pen or a pencil. We don't know what your vision may be. So it's important to communicate effectively and to understand that the buck starts and stops with you, okay? So sometimes I might get a client who's like, oh, I don't know what I want. Well, if you leave it up to me, I'm going to give you what I think you need. And that sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So you have to determine what is going to work for you, okay? So the second thing is it comes down to communication. Again, you're the boss. And it comes down to communication. That's from both parts. You know, you need to be able to communicate with the designer what your expectations are. You know, like explain to them what your timeline is. When do you expect for things to be done? A lot of times, a lot of graphics designers will tell you up front what it is, how long it's going to take for something to be finished or for them to have a prototype for you. Some won't. So if you know that you have a deadline, communicate that up front and just say, hey, are you able to meet this deadline, etc. Okay? Also, expectations of payment is important. There are some graphics designers who require all of the payment up front. Some take it once the project's been completed, and others take a deposit. So you want to be able to communicate all of that effectively. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it, okay? So we're talking about the vision. So let's say you have a book cover or a cover art, you're an artist, or let's say you have a flyer that's coming out. Try to figure out what your vision is for the flyer, or whatever the project may be. Figure out what your vision is. If you are an author, and I'm speaking primarily to authors right now, if you're an author and you have written this book, don't assume that the graphics designer has read your book or that they want to read the book, because they're not going to. Most are not. They don't have the time, okay? Unless you slip a little bit more coins. So understand, they don't know what's necessarily inside of your book. While you're writing, and a lot of times I get clients who say, I don't know what it is that I want. Well, while you're writing, at some point you've thought about what your cover should look like. I mean, anything is helpful. Whether you've written a book about your life, you see a little girl on the front cover, or maybe you see a butterfly emerging from a cocoon, or, whatever it is that you've thought about as you've been writing your book, then you need to communicate that. No matter how spastic you think it is, it's helpful for your designer. I love when people give me a bunch of stuff, but they give me the creativity to kind of pick through it and try to give them whatever it is that they envision. For example, I might tell a client, listen, tell me what your favorite colors are. What is your personality? See, my personality, as you can see, I'm bright, I'm bold, I'm really in your face. That's kind of my personality. And I tend to design that way. However, sometimes I have clients that are like, listen, Tamika, I love your work. It's really bold, and that is not how I am. So I want my stuff to look a little bit more simple. I want it to be more minimal. It's important to explain all of that stuff. And again, if you like certain colors, then tell them what colors it is that you want them to use. I love blue. I love purples. That stuff really helps with color scheme. That's my dog right there. I'm sorry. Come here, Diamond. Just wants attention. Okay, let's try to get through this. The fourth thing, don't expect for perfection to be on the first draft. When your designer sends you your draft, understand that that's exactly what it is. It's actually a draft, right? So understand it's a draft and give some constructive criticism behind that, right? So that's going to lead me to my next thing. Don't give generalized comments. Comments like, oh, it doesn't pop to me, or it doesn't have that wow factor. It doesn't necessarily help you help the designer in terms of being able to communicate effectively or creatively what it is that you're looking for. So again, don't expect perfection. If there's something that you don't like, understand that designers, we tend to work with a couple of things. We look at color, we look at images, we look at fonts, we look at the overall aesthetic of what everything is. So to just say something like, it doesn't pop to me, then your designer's going to say, okay, well, what doesn't pop? Like, that's our first question. Like, it's like, well, what doesn't pop? A lot of times I get clients who, they might say, I don't know what I want, but it doesn't speak to me. Well, the thing is, and then they kind of put it back in my court. The thing is, understand that every designer wants to be great. They want every project to be great. If you have a good designer, some people don't care. But if you have a good designer, they want their stuff to be great. They want you to love what they've done. So they've already given you what they think pops. And they've already given you what they think the wow factor is. So if your wow factor is that you want a different color font, like for example, I think just yesterday, one of my authors said, Tamika, I love what you did, but on these words, I can't see them. Can you put something behind it or make it a different color? That helped me a lot, because honestly, what she didn't know is, in my mind, I wanted the colors to look very muted. I wanted the words to be kind of faded out, like into the background. I'm like, sometimes I'm artistic, so I just wanted it to be like in the clouds or whatever. It looks like we got somebody here. Thank you so much for joining me. So I did, and so she said, I love it, but I need these words to stand out more. So you know what that did? That helped me. I changed the colors. I changed the color of the font. I also made them more bold, and I put a drop shadow behind them. So they really stood out. And so that's very helpful, because again, in my mind, I wanted the words to be floating, on the cover, but for her, she wanted them to be pronounced. So whatever it is that you do, don't just leave generalized comments for your designer. The more information you give, the better. Of course, you don't want to be controlling, but the more information you give, the better. So for those that are just joining me, we're talking about ways to effectively work with your graphic designer. And we're just about through with them. And then finally, okay, I just have to put this out there. I gotta say, bullying never works in your favor. Okay, so if you have a bullying spirit, a bullying personality, it's not necessarily going to work in your favor, right? If you see that, right, that's my little puppy right there. Okay, she's a puppy. I know she looks big, but she's a puppy. So bullying never will work in your favor. It's important to understand that when you're working with a graphics designer, it really becomes like it's a relationship that the two of you are establishing. So the good thing is to communicate effectively, right? And to be able to work harmoniously, if possible, with your graphics designer. So let me just go through everything again. Number one, understand that you're the boss. So that means everything starts and stops with you, right? Communication is key. Understand what the expectations are when it comes to payment, when it comes to timelines. Understand how many revisions that you have, because some designers will only give you 2 revisions. Some designers will do unlimited revisions. I'm not one of those designers who will do that. So it's important to understand that stuff. Even before you look at your contract, it's okay to ask those questions. Number 3, figure out what your vision is. Decide what it is that you want your project to look like. Find examples, give examples. I've even had people draw stuff for me. They're like, Tamika, I am not an artist. And I'm like, it's cool if you're not an artist. It's helpful for me that you are giving me what your vision is, because it helps me to understand what's in your mind, right? Number 4, don't expect perfection on the very first draft. It's not going to be perfect. It's not expected to be. So if you do have criticism, which kind of leads to number 5, if you do, avoid being very general about what it is that you're going to say. Avoid being general and give as much information as you can about what you want to change. It will help the graphics designer, and it helps you to ultimately get what you want. Lastly, bullying never really works in your favor. You want to walk away loving your project, loving your experience, and I'm telling you, the best projects that I'm sure a lot of my clients have had is because we have such a really great working relationship. It's so important to have that. So that's it for this time. I might be coming back to you today. I don't know, because I'm probably gonna have something else to talk about. Okay. Listen, hit me up on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Obviously, you're on Facebook right now. Look for Tamika Inc. Okay, and also visit me online, www.tamikainc.com.